Hello there. My name is Mark, aka the Canadian Jedi, and this is episode 113 of Holocron Chronicles. I am joined, as always, by my trusty co-pilot, Charlie Carden. Charlie, rocking the Spartans and rocking a fresh new jacket. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. This came overseas. The vendor's name is Guabo Butt with 2 T's. You can look him up on social media, but I dealt with him directly. He does also have a site, but I like it. I'm trying to figure out how much I like it, but I had asked him because I didn't want the whole flight suit. I don't need 2 flight suits. I have my big orange flight suit and I haven't worn that anywhere yet. So I'm rocking this and it's light enough that I'm not dying down here. But yeah, I always like to rep my Sparty. I've told the story of this one before, the Sparty Rebel Squadron for my alma mater, Michigan State. But yeah, doing good. Long day. I was in the car all day, drove to the very, very south end of my sales territory, which is Benton County, Indiana. It's right along the state line with Illinois. So I was gone for about 12 hours. But here, excited to talk about Star Wars. Let's do it.
Yes, I am excited. It's Canada Day here in Canada. So I've been off all day, spending the day in the sun. Got a little too much sun, but I'll deal with that later. But if you notice me looking a little red and white, I'm not just vibing with the Canada flag. I spent a little bit too much time in the water and in the sun today. But we are joined by a familiar face in a new background, a new setup area.
Love it.
Peter, thank you for joining us all the way from what looks like your X-Wing.
Yep. X-Wing in deep space, but
it's somewhere
the reception
in an unknown sector.
The reception in the Outer Rim is mind-blowingly good. You're coming in perfectly clear. No little waves in the hollow at all. How you doing tonight?
Doing pretty well.
Excellent.
Rock and roll.
Excellent. Glad to have you back. Let's get into. You know what? Actually, let's pause on the Patreon stuff for a second, because I want to say, while we have this crew, that this is probably a good time for me to announce that I'm taking a step back from Secret Friends Unite, and just kind of I need to do something other than podcasting. I've been doing podcasting for a long time. I talked to the guys and said, I'm just not feeling that same passion, that same drive. So it's time to kind of mix things up a little bit. So this is your crew for this show going forward. You guys want to talk? I feel like I'm leaving this show in great hands. Peter's familiar with the network, familiar hopefully with all of our listeners, and a regular recurring guest on this show. So I'm feeling like we're leaving this in the most capable hands possible, in Jedi hands. So this is great for me. I think this is fantastic. You guys want to talk a little bit about how you're feeling about that going forward?
Absolutely. And thank you for. The biggest fear in life that anybody can do is do something half-assed. So if you're like, well, I'll just keep hanging around and I guess whatever, and what we were producing was not as good as it should be or as it had been, that would be the real tragedy, I think. So I admire the courage. A lot of people don't often have the temerity to stand up and say, hey, I need a change. So good on you. Peter has been with me over on Code 47 since 2021. It was about a year in. I had ground through 3 hosts, one of whom ghosted me, the other one rage quit, and the other one just kind of drifted off to do his own thing, and not through any true malice. And then Peter came along, and Peter has never let me down. And he's never let Secret Friends down. We've always had great conversations talking about Star Trek. And moving forward, we're going to kind of craft this show in a somewhat similar fashion, where we're gonna be talking about deep dive stuff. So our first plan is we're gonna tackle the 5 films directed by George Lucas. So the 2 of them that aren't Star Wars are going to be our first 2 episodes. We've already targeted the Timothy Zahn books graphic novels version that we're going to tackle. But we're also tackling new content as it comes along. I've got Ahsoka on the board. We've got Star Wars Visions on the board. We're going to have guest performers that people who have been part of the kind of the Secret Friends Unite stable of talent. So it's people who jive well with us, and we have great conversations. So we're going to keep the show going. Same deal, bi-weekly on a Wednesday, on the Patreon, and then also on the YouTube channel. Assuming that my video production guy, that would be Todd, keeps up his end of the bargain. He's got a whole spreadsheet that he makes me do, and I agreed to do it as long as my stuff would end up going where it needs to go. But I'm sure I can count on him. And this has been amazing. This sprung from, it's funny, within that first block of doing Code 47, we started to cover the first season of The Mandalorian, me and Alex, who was my old co-host, and Todd's like, oh, you can't have both of them on the same show. You just can't do it. And it was like, he really had a bird in his saddle about it. So I don't know how that conversation turned into this show, but it probably had something to do with it. I have no idea.
I think so. Yeah. I think Todd kind of said, like, you like Star Wars, Charlie likes Star Wars, go do a Star Wars show. Like that was right. Kind of, I mean, I'm sure I'm paraphrasing a bit, but it was kind of, it was that kind of vibe, right? It was just kind of like, hey, Mark, you've been talking about video games forever. Do you have any inclination to talk about something else? And I was like, hell yeah, let's go. Let's talk about Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's been a great ride.
Yeah. Yes, and
what you guys do going forward.
When new content comes up, I would love to pull you back in, be a guest, do a run with us, whatever you want. The door is wide open. But so we're gonna have this episode. In our next episode, we're talking about I was going to say the Tales of the Underwear. That was not the name of the show. The Tales of the Underworld, which and so we'll wrap that up because it was originally planned, and then after that, you'll see us get into. To talk about something new. Format will be not terribly dissimilar, but something that excites me is that making that transition into doing deeper dives and stuff. And it was interesting. I was talking to one of the people I was interviewing on our Spotlight, which is on our Patreon, who her name is Heather Antos. She is the group editor over at IDW for Star Trek, but she also helped launch Star Wars at Marvel back in 2015. Very, very cool lady who I'm expecting will actually come back and do some guesting with us. But I said to her, I said right up front, nothing makes me more nuts than when people derisively pit Star Wars and Star Trek against each other like it's some kind of competition or choice to be made. So what I'd like to illustrate with what we do with Holocron moving forward is that there's great deep lore in each, and there are nuances to look at and things to kind of study and reflect on that can be interesting to listen to Peter and I talk about, and guests that we have as well. So we're hoping to expand what we do here and show the naysayers out there that there's equal depth and there's equal things more that there's more to see. There's always more to see when you take your time and kind of go slowly. So that's what I think that we're thinking to do. Peter, what about you? Any deep thoughts about the transition?
Any deep thoughts? Nothing too out there, even though I'm apparently out there.
Well, way out there.
I think that's kind of what we're going for with the deep dives and everything. I know that I'll bring in some, as everyone knows, I'm the canon guy, so I like to talk about the lore. I talk about that a lot. So I'll be bringing in that kind of stuff. I am also a gamer, so you're probably going to hear about any of the new Star Wars games that are coming out.
You need backup for those? Give me a call.
Yeah.
Give me a call.
Because I've already got my eyeballs on some stuff. I need to get some better hardware, but I've just started doing Star Wars Outlaws because they hooked me with Hondo. Yeah. So
I got to get into the Hondo stuff. I haven't yet, but that game's great. I got a Nyx stuffy from my son who watched me play some of that and instantly fell in love. That game's great.
I thoroughly enjoyed that creature right from the get-go. Yeah. I need to get a better hard drive though, because it's not loading properly. So I clipped through walls and I think I broke the game. So I gotta fix that.
I broke it.
Yeah, I'm on the wrong side of a force field, and there are no walls, so I don't think I'm supposed to be there.
No,
Yeah, that's not good. That's not.
you broke the
That's not nice.
matrix.
Yeah,
And it could be just, it could be like, game could be just a little bit buggy as well,
it's
right?
no, it's
Yeah.
just it's a hardware limitation
Okay.
for my rig,
Gotcha.
so not a big deal.
I was trying to be like, it's them, it's not you, it's them.
Nope, it is totally me. I am self-aware enough to know that
Love
it's
the
my
self-awareness
machine.
and honesty. That's fantastic. That's a game that I've been like, because it's such a game that you can kind of like pick at little bits here and there. There's a big story beats, but then you can go off and explore.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I've
now that
only
it's coming
played
to
like the
Switch
first.
2,
I'm only on the second planet, so I'm not very
yeah,
far.
that's
But I've enjoyed what I've
I'm
seen.
not super
So.
far into it either. But it's a game that like I am so tempted to double dip now that it's coming out on Switch 2, because it's one of those games that I can have something on like on TV and be watching through something, like just to have like One Piece on or something, or like
Oh yeah.
Clone Wars, and just be like picking at like little missions or exploring something that I don't have to pay full attention to both, but I can be kind of enjoying both at the same time. So I'm so tempted to double dip on that one on Switch 2, but like for right now, I'm like, no, their games are so damn expensive. I'll just leave it on the Xbox and call it a day for now. But if it goes on sale, I might have a moment of weakness. We'll see.
It happens.
Yeah, but you're already hearing me saying, "Pull me back in, coach." I'm not going far. I still love Secret Friends Unite. Still love everything that we built on the network. And I'm hoping that I'm still coming back for a guester here and there. So for anyone listening, I'm still going to be hanging around in the Discord. I'm still going to be listening. I'm still going to be a fan. I'm still going to be interacting and all that kind of stuff. But I'm excited for this new direction of the show. Can't wait to hear what you guys do with it. May the force be with you. Now, let's rewind a little bit and think this happened.
Pay some bills. All right. As always, we kick things off, retroactively in this case, talking about the wonderful folks on our Patreon Secret Friends Unite squad over at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. Exclusive programs. I was already talking about our spotlight interviews, which are terrific. There's a new one every Friday. You got to get tuned into that. Early shows without ads, exclusive channel on the Discord, 7 days for free. Half off your first month, and stay on board for as little as $2 a month. So, oh my goodness, so much entertainment for $2 a month. My buddy Derek Trevelyan, the figure dude, is on board, as is Francie. She does my wife's hair. Luke Lore, a frequent guest, Mr. Xbox Expansion Pass, and my Uncle Tim. Coming in along for the ride, John Sidorf, Brendan Myers, Corey in HD, Matthew Keel, my buddy Kurt Krug. I call him my agent because he wrangles that talent and helps us get those great interviews. Tanya Lee, Chipotle Bear, Famous Seamus, J Newport 007, Cam the Movie Man, and Brian Osterman, aka Darth Prozac, and we're going to circle back to him in a second because it's his time. And we got a new guy, and I was corrected. It's in there, but you don't say those first three characters. You simply call him Freight Conductor, not I got yelled at. So it's Freight Conductor. But
there you go. All right. Thanks for joining us.
You got to do license plate speak.
Not license plate speak. There you go. But
awesome.
Yeah, Brian Osterman, Darth Prozac.
Super Friend, Super Squad, Sean Stella,
Yes.
Henry Myers.
I always bring it back
You
as a
change
camper.
the font color of that one and make it more evident. Or something.
Oh, okay. The font needs to be more gigantic. Or there we go. Oh, can't miss it.
There you go. Perfect. Can't forget that family. They're amazing. Yes, Brian Osterman, Darth Prozac. Feel like he's already taken care of the job part of this.
He seems to have claimed the job.
Yeah, he's in there.
Claim that himself. Are we going to stick with that is the question. Are we going to accept that he is a Dark Lord of the Sith? Or are we going to... was the dude from Kenobi pretending to be a Jedi?
It wasn't Aziz. It was the other guy who reminds me of Aziz. What's the actor's name?
Man, the dude from Eternals. Why can't I think of his name?
He's in so many things, and I can't remember his name.
Right. It's oh boy, it's embarrassing. I feel bad. But anyway, it'll come back to me. Well, I'm gonna say so. I'm gonna split the difference, and I'm gonna take the easy route by going first. So yes, he's a Lord of the Sith.
Okay.
Because he's got that Darth, but he's a psychiatrist. Which is the only way anybody's going to legally get Prozac. So you're going to sit down, you're going to talk about your feelings, you're going to talk about your dark feelings, you're going to talk about nothing but your dark feelings because that's all there is. You're going to talk about passion and hate and being self-centered, all the things that are important about being a Sith. That's what you got going on.
And you will break those chains.
And you will break those chains. And as far as a race, you're just a regular old human. I mean, mostly this. Well, not all the Sith that we've seen are just human, but the main. Well, no, we had Darth Maul, and I don't know. Yeah, we'll just stick with boring human. Sorry. That's why he's taking the Prozac, because being a human is just like, oh, he's a human. Whatever.
I like it. Kumail Nanjiani.
Of course.
That finally you were talking. I was like, don't interrupt. Don't forget this name. That struggle. But thank you. We both got through that trying time. Peter,
there. We made it.
I will say for a job, since you have chosen Darth Prozac as your title, I am, however, going to toss you further into the long time ago to the time of the Old Republic, where there are more
there you go.
Sith running around. So is Darth a title that you have claimed legitimately, or are you fighting for it? Time will tell.
All right.
But in terms of species, let's see. Let's go, just because it's different and I'm thinking that the pattern's stuck in my head, we're going to go with Nemoidian.
Ooh.
I don't think we've seen a Nemoidian Sith.
Is it with the ridiculous accent, or is that just an episode?
Well, that's up to you, but they always have an accent. The question is, how amped is it?
Yeah, right. How amped. And what's the job? So the Sith is the job, and he's a Nemoidian, but
you're fighting for the glorious Sith Empire.
There you go, glorious. And the Trade Federation too? Is he part? I
don't think it exists yet, but who knows? All right. Maybe you're part of what starts it.
Ooh.
You start selling Prozac for great profit, and you start the Trade Federation.
Oh my God!
This is how you survive the Great Purge of Darth Bane.
Smell a Lucasfilm lawsuit. All right, Mark. What about you?
I'm gonna respect the Darth. I'm going to agree that Darth Prozac's job is Sith Lord. Timeline wise, man, Charlie, you're going with Are you guys going with timelines here?
Well, that's the only way I could make it work.
Right. Maybe I just come up with some sort of timeline. But I'm thinking Yuuzhan Vog for species. They seem like an energetic, high energy kind of species. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going the opposite of Charlie. Like this, he needs some Prozac. He's got the nickname Darth Prozac because of the high energy.
Right. Just and the Yuuzhan Vog, that was from the EU, right? Weren't they like were they kind of plant people, or they made plants grow?
No, they had biological starships, and their weapons were biological. And they had a very interesting connection with the Force, but they weren't plants.
Okay, because I remember like some piece of key art that and they turned Coruscant into a big garden or something, like that was their attack on Coruscant. Maybe, I don't know. Am I just making this up?
Somebody else.
That was in the High Republic stuff, wasn't it?
No, this was old. This was from back in the Zahn days, at least in the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, whenever it is like that first trilogy or whatever. I swear, I'll have to do some research.
Well, it wasn't in Zahn, because I would have remembered that. But it might be from that period, but I don't think it's a novel I've read.
What was the first novel where they showed up? Do you recall?
Not off the top of my head. It's one of the new Jedi Order books. But
okay. Well, dear listeners, feel free to hit us up, but we'll look into it.
There you go. And yeah, to Peter's point, very interesting Force ability to not be detectable through the Force, really threw off the Jedi. So I think that as a Sith power, just inherent in the species, would be deadly as hell. So Brian,
Oh yeah.
yeah, absolutely brutal Darth power, just naturally being unattainable through the Force. I think that kind of makes you a force to be reckoned with.
Force
So that's
presence.
I think that's a fun one.
Force up.
Yeah.
Force up. Cool. Well, the news. You said, "Oh, I don't think there's any news," and I had heard about one of these, but not about the other one.
All right.
But yeah,
One of
so
these just got
yeah.
announced like 4 hours ago.
Well, that's why I haven't heard
That
about
is
it.
this
So
first one. Yeah, this first one is Dan Stevens is voicing a new villain, Solitus. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Maybe Solitus. Who knows? We'll find out in September.
If it was
Holy,
Latin, you'd be right the first time, but most people
yeah,
pronounce it the
right.
second way, so who knows?
yeah, we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
right.
But yeah, so the actor from Beauty and the Beast, Downton Abbey, or as I like to say to drive my wife crazy, Downtown Abbey.
Well, that I will give you credit comes from a Lonely Island sketch because it
really?
was yeah. Well, yeah, it was yeah. It's I don't even know if it's a whole sketch, but it's oh my god, I listened to their podcast this morning. Who's the main guy that's on the Lonely Island who starred in Brooklyn Nine-Nine? I love him.
Andy Samberg?
Sandberg's talking over it and he's saying, Downton Abbey, you don't want to piss off the chicken lady. And he was referring to, and then he said, Downtown Abbey, we'll just call it Fancy Entourage. So call it that next time and see what your wife has to say about that.
I absolutely will. I always make Downtown Abbey a character.
Yeah.
She is the main character of this
Downtown
show.
Abbey's pissed. She's going to slap you.
She's very rough and tumble. She has like the worst British accent that you could possibly come up with. And after making up this whole story about Downtown Abbey, I finally did watch some of the show, and my I'm Downtown Abbey kind of like
Sounds like Mickey Mouse.
Like, yeah. Very, very different from the actual show. But anyway, this guy is coming back. They're doing a sequel to Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. This is Pieces of the Past. It's a four-piece four-part special event. September 19th. We don't have that long to wait for this. Get through the summer, and we've got some Lego Star Wars right there. Gaten Matarazzo is coming back for this. Bobby Moynihan's coming back. Ahmed Best, Mark Hamill, Ashley Eckstein, Ben Schwartz, Tony Revolori.
They got the whole band from the first one coming back.
Great returning cast, yeah. And apparently some new guys. There is, I'm guessing, a picture of this guy on Star Wars and on the social media stuff, so you can go see a picture.
The character he appears to have 2 purple lightsabers with chains.
Yeah.
What?
I'm not sure if this is a Revan reference or if it's just they want to be weird, which is totally it's Lego. They're allowed to. Lego. They get a full pass.
Yeah, that's why I said like
totally
Lego, like
weird.
lightsaber nunchucks. Would not put much past me, or past them. So this seems fun. I think that's, the Lego stuff's usually fun. I like that, like Rebuild the Galaxy kind of ended in a way that it seemed like we were going to get a sequel. So I like that they finally announced like it's here, it's happening, and it's coming sooner than we expected. So, so that's great.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really like the first one. I tend to like pretty much anything Lego does because it's usually really goofy and
Yeah.
I was busy adding it to the schedule. Sorry. yes, being a responsible steward. But yeah, that was fun. We definitely enjoyed talking about that when it came out last time. So yeah, we will talk about that in September. It missed our other stuff. So yeah, good deal. And yeah, Dan Stevens is in Jurassic World, which comes out, which I'm seeing tomorrow. I think he's the third, because it's Blade and Black Widow and this dude. I think I could be wrong. I'm not 100%, but yeah, he's been in a ton of stuff. What other big thing was he in that I remember seeing him in? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's going to be a blast, and we're always. And then right after that, I actually did see a date so that I could add to our schedule for Visions. Will be out at the end of October, I think. I might have to look at this a little bit more closely. So we'll be talking about that as well. So, all right. Well, rumor report. I heard this and I thought, oh, there's no way, and I'm still hoping there's no way. But anyway, what's the rumor? What's the rumor?
The rumor is right now. The rumors abound that we may be getting a season 2 of Kenobi. My thoughts on this are they have Ewan McGregor excited to come back. And if he wants to, why not try? I guess. My hope is that they listen to the fan feedback from the first one and they give us something worthwhile after learning some lessons from Ahsoka, from Andor, and Skeleton Crew and stuff that's come through since Kenobi. But that's it. Right now, the rumors are like there's no story, there's no plot, there's like very little details of this other than they're considering it. Whereas before, it was like Kenobi's a one and done mini series. Like the DVD or the Blu-ray release even said Kenobi the complete series
right
on the box. So this would be, a big change to that kind of like, here's our story. And then if you want season 2 is A New Hope, like, whatever, right? Like
it's just, they're skirting the line here because they did some kind of questionable things as it relates to the canon of episode 4, which I know that I wasn't crazy about, but there were moments, and like a lot of things, as I've said about some of the Star Wars that I don't think is the greatest, like the prequels, for example. I've talked about that. There are some absolutely great moments in there that just knocked your socks off. Like Vivian Blair, who was young Leia, was fantastic. That last episode with the fight between Vader and Obi-Wan, even though it really kind of undercut what we saw in episode 4, which honestly was pretty lame. I mean, you got a hulking guy swinging his basically his neon light tube at an old dude, and they're kind of dancing. It's like, it was pretty sad. This was epic, and it gives me, Peter can relate. Strange New Worlds, right? Has it given us some better interpretations of some things and some worse interpretations of some things that maybe happened otherwise, like the Gorn. I'll just say the Gorn. Everybody hates the Gorn. The Gorn is a race, Mark, from the original series. Big lizard guy. You've seen clips. Yeah. Well, in this new show, they've turned him into they turned the race into the xenomorphs from Aliens, and it's a jarring transition. Yeah, but
that's weird, because I mean, if you're gonna introduce a xenomorph, like, why not just come up with a new race?
Right. That's what I've been saying.
There's absolutely no reason. Cool. Yeah, there's absolutely no reason not to. Yeah,
like, you know what I mean.
They've had a couple of great episodes, but yeah, they made a mess of an existing something. So that's my fear with this, is that it's making, it's making more of a mess of something. So the setting for this, I would just want to see as something that, okay, maybe Obi-Wan gets pulled off-world again, but there are no other characters in it that would affect anything that you would see in episode 4. It's the only way. Or you'd have to throw him in the Indiana Jones de-aging machine and set something in the past, or have him have a ghost adventure in the future. Why couldn't he be a ghost? I'm serious. I mean, because
Yeah.
you couldn't just have it like, oh, the next week you see him with a realtor closing on his hut in the desert that you saw him walking to, and then another big thing happens and he's got to go, because it just, I think it would be super messy. I just don't really see how they could make it work.
I think if they fall like this, probably is going to be a little unpopular, but hear me out. I think if they take a lesson from the Book of Boba Fett, I know, weird choice, but if they take a lesson from the Book of Boba Fett and do some more of that introspective character stuff that they did with Boba at the beginning, at the first couple episodes with that, I think that there could be some story that you could do there, especially with how they left it ended with him meeting the Force Ghost of Qui-Gon. Regardless of how we feel about him able to manifest himself visually, but being able to see Qui-Gon and then work through whatever Force abilities you could even have, if you really wanted to tie some stuff in for later, you could even do Obi-Wan and or Yoda are able to force project and talk to each other over distances.
Right.
So there are, if you do it with an exploration of character and an exploration of the meaning of the Force, there could be something there.
Yeah.
But other than that, it would be mostly keeping an eyeball on Luke. Maybe you do like a quick snippet where the episode begins with the death of Darth Maul, like we saw in Rebels, and then you do the fallout from that of how Obi-Wan processes that whole thing,
or consequences if there's
or the consequence, or maybe someone's after him. I don't know, but like,
somebody was Maul was supposed to check in.
Maybe the Crimson Dawn is going to come find him now. I don't know.
Crimson Dawn. Like if he's still leading Crimson Dawn,
right,
involved
or
with
associated
them,
with it, they're going to
associate it with them, whatever it is.
So
right.
Even if you wanted to bring the Crimson Dawn, and then Obi-Wan's got to skip town for a little bit to make sure that Luke is kept out of the crossfire, bring in our old friend Hondo Onaka.
Oh yeah, Hondo, sit in for me. Would you mind? Yeah, that would. Yeah, but yeah, Obi-Wan would just have to. He would have to be 100% away from anything familiar to the series to not make more of a mess of Episode 4. That's my take.
I'm going to double up on Peter's controversial take here and suggest a criminal element in a slightly different part of Tatooine. I know we've seen Tatooine, it's been done to death, but it could make sense that he wants to at least clean up a little bit of Tatooine, and maybe it ties into like some Jabba the Hutt stuff, and like Jabba's kind of got his thing, but like he's okay, or like the Hutts are okay, but like if Crimson Dawn comes in and says like, hey, this is the planet that Maul got killed on, like there's some follow from that, maybe this is a planet we should pay attention to, and Obi-Wan has to be like, not my planet, this one's too important, we've got the Hutts and I kind of want them to stay in power because they're controllable. So like Crimson Dawn, we don't want your kind here, and I'm gonna do like a little, mission to stomp you out. So it doesn't have to go super off world. It doesn't have to be tied in anything. I think it could just be, and again, I think it'd be super interesting to reattach himself to the Force, tune in his different Force abilities, do that introspective stuff while also having to take out a criminal element, or at least subdue a criminal element, or something like that.
Yeah.
But it could be very close quarters, right? It could be just cleaning up part of Tatooine to make sure that Luke doesn't go off with some speeder bike gang who keep modifying himself or something. The
swoopers. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some interesting things to do. I think do it while Ewan McGregor's interested.
Yeah, that's valid. Yeah, that's valid.
I'd love to see Hayden come back, but I want to see him in flashbacks.
Yeah.
If you're doing some modern training, take it back to lessons that he was giving Anakin.
Yeah.
And I love those trainings. I don't want to see him fight Vader again. I think Vader should, and canonically so far does listen to the Empire and says, or the Emperor, and says, leave him alone. He's essentially dead. He's the next best thing to dead. He's living in a desert on a planet. He's insignificant. Let's work on the Death Star and doing some important shit so we can control the galaxy. Stop focusing on this because you're not focused on
The
me and I'm Steven. I
the
need all the attention.
the energy project, and yes, I need all your love. Focus on my
Right.
energy project. I need your love. There,
So
that's
I don't
that's the name of your boy band.
yeah, I don't want to see Vader at all in a season 2. I'd love to see Anakin.
Yeah,
Don't want to see Vader.
Yep.
And I think after Ahsoka, there's ways to bring in what was Ariana Greenblatt?
yeah,
Oh, for
yeah.
young Ahsoka.
Little
I think that would
Ahsoka.
be a pick, seeing all
Doing
three
some
of them
Clone Wars flashbacks could be fun
live
too.
action doing some stuff. Oh
Right.
man,
And bring back Tamora Morrison. Have Rex, like you could do a full short, but a
Yeah.
nice little Clone Wars reunion.
Yeah.
I mean, and Kenobi was only 6 episodes, so that's real short. And that's like Ironheart, for example, which is airing at this time when we're recording this, is also just 6 episodes. 6 episodes is great in the modern world. You can do a little, you can see how it's received, and then you can come back with more. So, yeah.
I think there's some lessons to be learned from season 1, and I think they can do this in a way that it doesn't touch anything canonically. We just saw them do this in Andor. We're going to go through a deep dive in a second of how Andor affected our watching of Rogue One. Spoilers, I have a couple of tiny little nitpicks, but for the most part, there's not much there that they stomped on or retreaded or touched with something that existed before, whether it's Rogue One or anything that came after it. So they can do it. They can do it well. We just saw them do it in Andor, and it added, I think, to watching everything that came, like Star Wars timeline wise, everything that came after Andor. So if they can do that with a couple of seasons of Kenobi that come together, first season of Andor, I notoriously didn't like.
Yeah,
Second
same.
season, some of the best TV I've seen ever.
Yeah, agreed.
So if they can do season 1 of Kenobi was fine.
Yeah,
season 2 was phenomenal. Like, yes, give Ewan McGregor that chance. Yes, give Hayden that chance. Like, to your point, like, yeah, bring Ahsoka, bring Rex, bring the crew to live action. Let us see some of this shit for real. And like, get them in the armors. What? Ventress. Hell yes.
Yeah, started like Peter said with the climactic duel between Obi-Wan and Maul, and finally slather Sam Witwer in that makeup. Let him be and just not in a hologram. Yeah, let him be the guy. So anyway,
to that point, like Ventress, like, I mean, they hinted so much at the path in season 1, so have them connect with Ventress, have them connect with even Cal Kestis, but like you could make this like the end game of Star Wars, like just
right.
And hopefully it doesn't become like just cameo fest, but like if you did it right, and you gave everyone their little moment, like this could be the most satisfying thing for Star Wars that does kind of what Andor does, but a flip to it, where Andor didn't really do much in terms of like.
It did do a lot of connecting to bigger characters.
Yeah. But if you could do it with this, but still tell a compelling and worthwhile story, like, man, I would be excited for this if they did it right. But to that point, let's jump into some Rogue One after Andor.
The Rogue.
It had been a while since I watched Rogue One, so rewatching it now after finishing Andor. I want to get just kind of broad strokes from you guys. Peter, let's start with you. How does Andor change your viewing of Rogue One now that it kind of all flows together?
The things when I was rewatching Rogue One after Andor was the one thing that stuck out to me was Andor really highlighted the decentralized, disorganized nature of the rebellion at this point. So what we're seeing in Rogue One is legitimately the first time the rebellion actually came together as an organization to do anything. So it makes it a much bigger deal. there there's something that I wish that it didn't feel quite that way, because having seen Rebels, like the rebellion was capable of doing some stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, but there's still something to it where it's like this is the big step where the rebellion finally coheres, and then when they finally cohere and make a step together, they have a victory. And so that's a really neat note that then kind of is a subtext that flows from Andor into Rogue One.
Yeah.
Another thing that stuck out to me was kind of interesting was, because when I saw Rogue One the first time, I didn't get this sense, but watching it with Andor, they literally know jack shit about Galen Erso when they're going in the film.
Yeah.
When you see the film the first time, you're like, okay, Andor knows something. He knows kind of what's going on. They have an inkling that there's something, like they have some intel. When you watch Andor, they know 3 words and jack squat else.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so it's kind of an interesting, like, I'm not 100% sure what I think of it, but it definitely takes the rebellion from like, they're organized and they know what they're doing, to like, they are grasping for freaking straws.
Yeah.
And so that's just an interest. So it changes the starting point of Rogue One drastically. And that it's kind of, again, I'm not 100% sure what I think of it when I relate it to what I understood when I saw it the first time, but it's an interesting change.
For sure. Yeah. Charlie, how you feeling?
You know, there are a lot of people that were like, obviously they ascribed Jin, and they the shippers of the world would ship Jin and Cassian immediately after watching this film, where in retrospect, realizing that truly his heart belonged to another, at the core of himself, it was a situation he was gonna make right when he got around to it. His interactions with Jin were simply that of camaraderie, and there was no sexual component to it. It's not like they died making out, while the mushroom cloud closed in. So and again, your head could be just fine back in 2016, seeing that, like, they you hear the Rihanna song playing in the background. We found love in a hopeless place, don't you think?
Yeah.
But you really just realize that it's a loving friendship, and one forged in fire, the way it was for all of them. They all really came to care for each other because they pulled together to save life as we know it, life as they knew it.
It kind of leans into the whole idea of how it was a war film, and so the brotherhood of the trenches sort of mentality. Right. So that is, which is always how I kind of thought of it. So that's kind of cool that's how it came out.
Yeah, most definitely. So and it was. So that would be the biggest thing I noticed, is that Cassian's character, and then some of the interplay, that brief period of time when they're in Saw's jail cell, and I believe it is now I'm drawing a blank, the blind guy. I always get the 2 names mixed up. The 2 buddies from the Will's Temple is
Chirrut Imwe.
Chirrut. Yeah, how he says, Captain, I sense you carry your prison with you wherever you go, which he does. He carries the prison of lost love and lost loved ones, and his home, and everything he saw in Gorman, and everything that we saw in the entirety of the series. So you're right. That never leaves him. He never really sleeps at night. You know what I mean? Because of everything that he's had to push down in order to keep moving.
Yeah, that was one of the weird little nitpicks for me, though. I thought that line was the lead up to that line was distracting. I'm skipping ahead here a little bit, but whatever.
No, I know the one you're talking about. So no, it's cool. But what about you? What was your big paradigm shift?
Same, very much so. Watching this in knowing that there's no romantic relationship there, or at least like watching it from the perspective of like, is there, and trying to find that, and realizing that was all headcanon.
Yeah.
There is like nothing there. Right. There's like a brother sister buddies in the trenches, like, this is an important mission that we're both giving our all to. We might not see tomorrow, but we're both on the same level of commitment to this cause, kind of thing. Like, there's there's not a romantic spark in there that I could see in this watch through. Like there was nothing there. So that was all headcanon to me. It was like, I know, like I could have sworn that I saw something in there that was like just straight up not there. It's just like, oh my goodness, I can, like, what was I projecting onto this? Just absolutely crazy. But then, it made so much more of it, so much more impactful. Everything with, K2 and Melshi, being with Andor right to the very end. The weight of every time someone said rebellions are built on hope, and that being passed from Andor to Jin and through the rebellion that way, knowing the weight of that line really made some scenes way more impactful. So yeah, it was a much more impactful movie.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
knowing the weight to it. And I think the same thing for Revenge of the Sith. I feel after connecting with characters in Clone Wars. So I don't think necessarily that, I'm going to reiterate this thing. I don't think necessarily that all Star Wars or any show has to be the same level of serious that Andor does to have an impact on what comes after it or what it relates to. I think just through the act of spending more time with characters and knowing more of the backstory, you're obviously going to have more impact when things happen to those characters later on. But the second season of Andor, especially being so darn good, leading directly into Rogue One, I thought really impacted it a whole lot. Are there any things that made this feel less impactful to you, or anything that, I'll combine these two, anything that made it more or less that you can kind of like pick out as like, oh shit, that moment, like when I used to watch Rogue One, it was like, okay, that guy's dead. And now it's more weighty? Or was there anything in Rogue One that was like, hey, I thought that meant something, and now it's like, whatever.
It was kind of nice to in the trench, kind of the trench warfare war movie way, to see Cassian's friendship with Melshi grow from escaping, the prison and leaving poor Andy Serkis behind, and how they survived again with no shoes. I mean, I have very cold feet, so that whole thing with them having no shoes, it's always been a problem for me. And then they jumped in the water, and then they were on the sand, and I'm like, all right, well, what about your feet? I mean, I guess if you're in Tahiti or something,
it's water and sand.
It's like Castaway. I don't know. It's like it's warm. Like Tom Hanks only ever needed a loincloth in that movie, right? He was fine. But
shoes on?
I did. What's that? Do I swim with shoes on? I don't. But I mean,
okay.
But I'm just saying.
You just said water and sand. I'm like, why would you have shoes in water and sand?
You gotta get towel tight enough. I don't know. You know what? It's a whole separate issue. But watching that grow, and then you don't see him for a while, and then he shows up, becoming part of the rebellion because he's in the lineup when they're handing out guns, and then he and Cassian and then K2 are all bunkies, and living in the bungalow and drinking and whatever, and then he just transitions into the film where he has a handful of dialogue and then he gets shot and killed. That's really the way it works. Be like, oh, he's my best friend, and they're not even together. He's like, I'm doing my part of the mission, you got to do your thing, and everybody in the squad gets picked off, which it doesn't necessarily make him any different watching Rogue One the first time, but it makes you look at him knowing that he's Cassian's top mate, and that he gets whacked, and instills a little bit more like, oh, but it's just so indiscriminate, like everything that's happening.
It's not. He doesn't even really. It doesn't show him die on screen.
Oh, I
like
thought
Melshi's death.
He just went.
He gets hit. He gets hit. He falls down. They make it to the door. He's still alive.
He's still talking, and then
and he clunks. He clunks
and
on
then
screen.
They cut to another scene, and they cut back, and everyone's dead, including Melshi. And it's just like,
yeah, you see. The one guy jumps out, he gets blasted. Yeah. It cuts back to the ship, and you're like, oh no, everything's wrong.
Right.
I think we go back to Andor, and to Cassian and Jin for
You're
a
right.
second, and
Yeah.
then we cut back, and then everyone's dead.
Everyone's just dead,
Talking,
including Melchis.
he's got a
toast.
shot. And he's like, and then they cut back, and everybody's just
and
Yeah.
it does show him on the ground, because I was like, is that's how he just kind of like,
He's out.
I guess he succummed to his
Tragedy of
wounds.
war.
Like, shit.
Yeah. It's just that's because everybody died down there. Absolutely, everybody died. So it was, but it shows you the indiscriminate nature of the violence that they're living in. That this character that we get to know somewhat peripherally by watching the show. It's not like he's got a big breakout storyline of his own, but he's by Cassian's side through a bunch of really important stuff, and then he comes on this final mission and like you said, dies off screen. He and just
yeah. For me, like I already said, the weight of rebellions are built on hope. I did have to say one thing watching this, that after watching Andor, especially Andor season 2, K2 seemed way more blaster proof on the show. Holy plot armor. Jesus. He was a walking tank. He cleared a hallway.
He got shot, and he got shot 50 times on Gorman. The only way that they could shut him down was running him in half. So you could say, oh, well, that, compromised the integrity of his armor. But then in that final episode, he does the hallway thing, and it's no big deal. So do they have like bigger, better blasters on Scarif? And maybe all those Stormies had like better guns?
They upped the voltage.
Yeah, and those stormtroopers are somehow great shots, which happens very rarely.
But that really stuck out for me after watching the badassery of K2 throughout.
Are you with us? No, Thump.
Right? Like, just he's a one-man army, and he took 3 blaster bolts to take him down and decommission him. I'm locking the door now. No, you're not. You're the backup. You're the freaking cavalry. Like,
you're supposed to be the
take
doorstop
on this base.
You're the barbarian. You're the damage sponge. You're okay.
Yeah, right. The damage sponge.
I love that. Just little bits like that of just things don't line up kind of thing. Like small little nitpicks, I guess we can get into as well. I did have one that I laughed out loud at, and it's terrible. But Andor screaming Jin no when she's about to run out and rescue a crying, screaming child. It's like, Bix and baby Andor may have dodged a bullet. Like, that's not fatherly instinct. You know what I mean? He's like,
I'm too focused on the mission. Yeah. You're right.
Like,
that's
screaming,
that's
screaming like, Jan, fuck damn kids. We got some stuff to do.
Like, that's not my kid. I like my kid. I don't like other people's kids.
I don't know. Yeah, just not the fatherly instinct that baby Bix needs.
That's good. Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. It was good. It's good.
Yeah, I could not help but laugh at that one. Like, oh, that's okay. All right. Peter, was there anything that stood out one way or the other to you that you can think of?
I think I still have a problem. I know. I think I mentioned this when we talked about season 1, but I still have a problem with the line. I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old. That line still drives me nuts with how the show works.
Because he wasn't 6 years old when we saw him in the flashback scenes. He was 10 or 12 or 14. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean.
So what
you could chalk it up to hyperbole, I suppose, but it's still kind of an annoying little. That's like my kind of nitpick there in terms of just his consistency.
His kind of faux dick swinging. He's like, well, I've been in this fight since I was in utero, because or whatever.
The other one that I was going to mention before that I'll say now is. Cassian says this is a first for me when they're imprisoned in Saul's little cave camp.
And
you know the hell it's not.
He was in prison. Like
even being imprisoned by rebels, this is not his first. He was under house arrest.
My first time in a prison in a cave. Maybe
with a bunch of misfits.
You could chalk it up to him just, well, I'm a spy, I'm an intelligence guy, so you can't believe anything I say, but why bother? Because what is he trying to impress them? Like, well, I ain't never been to jail. The Chris Rock routine. What do you want, a cookie?
It's especially with Saw's crew. It's like, do you want to seem like the goody two shoes
Yeah, right.
like rebel guy that's I've never been in trouble. I'm a Boy Scout. I'm Captain America.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, well,
Here, huff,
come
some
on, are
rhino.
you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was Saw taking a hit of? I always thought it was oxygen. I thought he was kind of a,
That's what I
Darth
thought.
Vader
And now
saving
it's
his
like
gas.
it's a
And I was
gas,
like,
and he's getting high.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
jet fuel. Well, you know what? If
Yeah.
you didn't have your legs anymore, wouldn't you pretty much just want to keep snorting
Didn't
away?
he still have them when we saw him in that episode the first time we were introduced to him doing that? I believe he was still fully limbed.
I'm not sure, but we didn't really see him at all in the final arc, except for on the Hollow. So you didn't see his feet. So somewhere between,
well, that was really
Arc 3
close
and
to,
Arc
so he's
4.
probably missing.
Yeah, Arc 3 and Arc 4, he lost a leg, or did he lose both legs? Because you see him walking, and he's got just like it's almost. He looks like there's
like a leg and a foot.
There's like an early Family Guy where they do a Bionic Man spoof, and he's like, well. We can fix him. We have the technology, but we don't want to spend too much money. And he's got like a rake as a leg and like all this different stuff. So I thought,
that is kind of how he felt.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to spend too much money.
Very pieced together.
I did think that the one thing that I did really appreciate was the arc of Admiral Raddus that they kind of stuck into that last arc there.
Yeah.
Because that,
very much
when
so.
you watch that then informs how Raddus behaves in Rogue One, which you, in context, you completely understood without all the backstory.
Because the other people on the Rebel Council suck,
pretty much.
You know, he's just like, and he's like, who's Clea?
It's like it's Raddus, Organa, and Mothma who actually know what the hell's going on. Apparently,
and those other two, who I'd like to just put them upside and slap them like the Three Stooges. And you know, they're bad here, but they're more like over the top bad in Rogue One. They're like, well, you know, the girl is she's a prisoner and her father was a blah blah blah, and what's she doing here? We don't have to listen. I think the rebellion is finished. Let's all sit here with our thumbs in our butts. Those guys suck. Could they have just gotten blown up? Maybe, you know, could they just have died off screen at some point? Because thank God we never see them again. They are fucking worthless. Those two.
Maybe they die in a Marvel comic. I don't know.
Oh, you know, I've read all of those and I don't think so, but they could still find a way. Yeah.
But it also I find that watching Andor gives so much weight to them being pains in the ass, because you have groups like Saw's Rebels and like you said, like this is the first time we really see a successful big mission for the Rebels in this kind of like context. So it is something where like you might have naysayers, and I know they come off as super annoying, I agree, but there's that kind of like, are we ready? You know what I mean? Like, are we ready? This could be it. They could wipe us out right now.
Especially if you take
into context the mission that we run in on
Gorman. Where like they completely got wiped out. Like, that if you see that as what's in the back of their mind, like, this could just be underprepared. Where we all wipe out now.
Right. Like Gorman should scare the crap out of them, because they just watched this group of rebels go up against the Empire, and like you said, just totally get mopped. Like,
right.
I get some of that hesitancy. I get some of the like, hey, maybe let's not send our entire fleet to Scarif. What's happening there? You got some chick whose dad's supposedly building a thing, and like Saws do it, like whatever. Who cares? Like, this is not where we want to, you know, like unveil our fleet to the Empire and get a target on our backs. Like, we're still building this thing.
Especially if we can't blow up the weapon. Like, now we're just a target. Which we see in the end of episode 4. Yavin almost gets blown up. So, I mean, they had a point.
Missed it by that much.
One thing I did find way more impactful was Cassian's "I couldn't face myself if I gave up now" speech.
Yeah.
That had way more weight to it, way more impactful.
Especially because he almost gave up multiple times throughout the
show. He wanted to quit big time, and that's why his lady left him. You know,
and
he had a destiny, his special destiny.
That final walk, that seeing that resolve, accepting his fate in the Force, and just like we talked about in the last episode, that final walk that led pretty much directly into Rogue One,
Right.
um, was so impactful. And you realize that through all that doubt and through all that, I almost gave up kind of stuff, like he's in it now.
Yeah.
He realized that he couldn't face himself. He couldn't give up. Not possible. And makes the big scene more important, makes the final scene here more impactful. I thought that speech and kind of what the weight behind it talked about
Yeah.
was so much more meaningful after watching Andor.
Yeah. Big time.
So for you guys, I know, Charlie, for you, I think Peter, Rogue One's up there on your list
Yeah.
of Star Wars movies.
Yeah. So number
Yeah.
3 for it's the first,
Yeah.
it's the first trilogy for me, and it's
Right.
yeah, of the top 3. So yeah, it's a New Hope, Empire, and then this.
So final question, does this whole experience make Rogue One better, worse, or the same in your overall Star Wars rankings? Does this change anything, or just it adds a bit more weight? Your ranking's not going to change, but you appreciate what Andor did. Charlie?
I will say exactly that. Yeah, doesn't change the rankings, and it's not going to rise above the original. It's not going to rise above Empire, which was the first film I ever saw in the theater. So that nothing will probably ever change that for me. But yeah, it does weighty up Cassian's actions and everything from, not just being the cold-blooded killer who decides to blow Galen Erso's head off because he cares about his squad mate, and then realizing that he can't. Well, I care about Jen because she's my friend, and I probably shouldn't just kill her father, who she's not seen in 15 years, and I just can't do it. I just can't kill him for no reason, even though I do it all the time. So yeah, humanizing him more and helping, kind of inform that moment a little bit more. I thought I appreciated, but yeah, it stands a firm number 3 for me.
Peter?
I think I'm going to have to agree with Charlie, where it doesn't necessarily change where it falls in the ranking, which the ranking in my head sometimes flip-flops around a little bit.
Mine too.
But for me, the prequels are in there too. But I am that generation.
Yes.
But I think
Children.
There's a lot of nuance and depth that it adds to, especially Andor's character. And while we don't necessarily, because Andor has that line of like, we've done horrible things for the rebellion, while we don't necessarily see all of the horrible things that Andor has done, we get to see all of the horrible things that have been done on behalf of the rebellion. And so I think that's something that I think is a good bit, where it shows like our heroes, while we have our paragons and Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa and such, where they're while we know that they do mess up, they can do no wrong though, right? Like they're perfect in a way. Where we see the underbelly of the rebellion, where it's people who are doing like the hard things so that it can survive.
Mm-hmm.
But also at the same time of those people doing those hard things. And we see it in Rogue One of like, I have done these horrible things and I want to redeem myself in a sacrificial way. And so this gives that an impetus. And I think that's a very beautiful moment. And so it's something that isn't present in the same way in the rest of the films. It's present kind of in 3, where Obi-Wan and Yoda respectively go, and they're like, okay, we have to write this. It's much more present in 6 with Luke.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the way that this is explicitly, and we know that this isn't going to solve everything, whereas Luke's willing to sacrifice himself, that does. Whereas this is like, we're going to sacrifice ourselves, we're going to give ourselves for the cause, for the galaxy, and we're not going to have that happy Ewok party at the end. We're all dead. We got burnt to a crisp, Sarah Connor style.
The great Ewok party in the sky. There's the name for your episode.
So I think that adding the humanity, like the grounded humanity to the rebellion, is something that Andor does that really boosts the depth of this film in a way above some of the other ones. So it doesn't take away the storytelling elements or the mythic elements of the original 6 films, but there's something um, grounded and deep in when you take all of this together, and it makes Rogue One that much more interesting on a human level.
Yeah.
So.
The human
Completely
fund.
agree.
Yes.
Like trust the Force is one of the first lines from this movie, and coming straight through from Andor, having that Force healer, fortune teller person, basically say, you know, trust the Force, like the Force is going to guide you, you're on a path, that kind of thing. And then having Jin's mother say trust the Force to kind of kick off this movie and the events that happen in this movie, you kind of see that parallel. And it's I think so much more impactful after watching 2 seasons of a show that use the Force as a concept or as a real, you know, something in the galaxy, incredibly sparingly, almost nothing. So having that essentially be that tie to just trust the universe, trust destiny, between Jin's story and Andor's story, and how they connect, I think is it's beautifully wrapped together. But I'll kind of agree with what you guys both said as well. Like, it doesn't necessarily change where Rogue One sits with me, and I think that's because Rogue One was so good on its own.
Oh yeah.
If Rogue One was like a slightly not as good movie, it probably would.
Yeah.
You know, like just like what I said before, like
if not,
Clone Wars
would do. Yes.
Yeah, Clone Wars adds so much more weight to episode 3, and like this adds a lot of weight, but I think, you know, there's a lot of stuff in Rogue One that was already pretty weighty.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you know, what this does to it, but I do appreciate that it exists, and I hope, like we said with Kenobi season 2, I hope that Star Wars storytelling going forward learns that lesson and doesn't go like the DCWB route of learning that everything has to be super, super serious and gritty. But you know, that there's 2 very different, and like this was a dark and gritty show and a, you know, kind of a pretty dark movie as well. Not everything in Star Wars has to be like that. It can be still made for kids, but still, or made for everyone, but still at least work towards building these impactful stories and impactful characters and adding more meaning and depth to characters. If they're going to revisit characters that we already know, do it in this way. That just adds more meaning and impact to what we know already comes later, because we already know how these characters end. So there we go. I think that's a good place to wrap it. Thank you, fellas, for joining me, and I can't wait for Tales of the Underworld next week. This is one I've been waiting for.
Yeah, boy, it's been.
I have to do a rewatch.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
take some notes.
So that's gonna be fun.
More prepared.
In the meantime, and Peter, you're gonna be back for that one as well.
That's the plan.
Awesome, dream team.
He's on the payroll. If we had one, we kind of do. Sort
perfect.
A little bit.
Kind of.
Yeah.
All right. Well, fellas, tell people where they can find you.
You got it. Well, no, that's my line. Tell people where they can find you, Mark. Where are you?
You can find me mostly hanging out around Instagram, but always in our Discord channel at Canardian_Jedi.
Nice. Peter.
You can find me around the interwebs generally as Petrus Aquinas, usually on the Discords. You can also find me on ELH's Twitch channel, where I'm playing a Star Trek Adventures game, and you can find me behind the scenes on Star Trek Excelsior.
Ooh. And I am on what I consider to be the big 3 of social media. That would be Threads, Blue Sky, and Instagram. I'm at the C3, TheCeeThree. But like Peter said, and like Mark said, our SFU Discord is the bomb. That's where all the fun and interactive chats about pop culture and geek stuff happen every day. If you're not currently a member, it's free to join. If you can't find it, give us a ping on any one of those social medias, and we will hook it up. But with that, that's the end of our program. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trucking.
May the force be with you. Rex, play us out.
Do, do,